Tensura X Villainess by Rimu-chi. Prologue and Introduction. Yumilia Dolkness Pav. I am Yumilia Dolkness, the only daughter of the noble Dolkness family. To the world, I am a 10-year-old girl with a prestigious lineage, but that's not the full truth. In reality, I am much older. How? You ask. I am a reincarnated person. Like many protagonists in anime and manga, I died in my past life courtesy of a truck. But instead of passing on, I was reborn in another world. Normally, reincarnated people find themselves in completely unfamiliar worlds. However, for me, this world is painfully familiar. That's because I've been reincarnated into the setting of an otome game I was obsessed with in my past life. But here's the kicker. I wasn't obsessed with the protagonist, the love interests, or even the story. No, my obsession was with the villainess, Yumilia Dolkness, who, in this life, just so happens to be me. At first, it seemed cool. I'm living the life of the character I admired. But then reality hit me. I am the villainess. And like in the game, my fate is grim. I'm the secret final boss of the story, meant to be defeated after the heroine and her chosen love interests save the world from the demon lord. If things play out like in the game, I'll die. So, my goal is simple. Avoid all the events that lead to my death and live a peaceful, normal life. But there's a massive problem. I have black hair. In this world, black hair is seen as a cursed trait. People believe anyone with black hair is connected to the demon lord. As if that's not enough, I also have an affinity for dark magic, which most people consider evil. Basically, I'm walking around with a giant, villainous, sign over my head. Still, I refuse to sit around and wait for my doom. If I want to survive, I need to prepare. My plan: head into a dungeon and level up. This world has a leveling system, and honestly, I love it. But as much as I enjoy the thought of gaining power, I'm still a child, at least in appearance. I'll have to be careful. With that said, I've introduced myself. Now, let's dive into my story. Shall we? I woke up in the morning to the sound of birds chirping outside my window. It's peaceful. For now, at least. It's been 3 days since I regained my memories, and honestly, I'm still hyped about it. Living in a world I know so much about is exhilarating, but it also means I have to start preparing. Let's get ready first. While I'm getting dressed, let me tell you something. I've never met my parents in this life. They're apparently always away on business, leaving me alone in this huge mansion. The maids here, they're terrified of me. Maybe it's my black hair, or maybe it's the rumors about me being cursed. Either way, they keep their distance, and you know what? I don't mind. Yesterday, I snuck out of the mansion and visited the marketplace. It was like stepping into a fantasy novel. Cobblestone streets, magical trinkets, potion stalls, and bustling crowds. I ended up buying a few useful items for my survival. 1. XP bracelet boosts experience gain for faster leveling. A must-have for grinding. 2. Protection necklace, a one-time lifesaver. If I get fatally injured, the necklace will break, healing me instantly. 3. Monster vessel attracts monsters. Perfect for farming XP or gathering materials. With these in hand, I feel more confident about venturing into dangerous places. I finished getting ready and headed to the dining room for breakfast. Young lady, your food is ready, one of the maids said, her voice trembling slightly. Thanks, I replied casually as I sat down to eat. The maids all kept their distance, as usual, huddling at the far side of the room. Their fear of me was almost comical, but I didn't let it bother me. I focused on my meal. After eating, I decided to head to the library. When I opened the doors, my eyes lit up. Shelves upon shelves of books stretched across the room, filled with everything from magical theory to monster encyclopedias. Jackpot, I whispered, practically skipping toward the shelves. I spent the next 4 hours immersed in books, focusing on topics that would help me survive and grow stronger. Some of the books I read were: 1. The Basics of Dark Magic. 2. Advanced Dark Spells for Combat. 3. Monsters of the Abyss. 4. The Cursed Ones. Black Magic Users Through History. 5. Dungeon Mastery for Beginners. 6. Artifacts and Enchantments of the Noble Families. 7. The Demon Lord's Legacy. A History of Destruction. 8. How to Identify Weak Points in Monsters. 9. Magical Healing. What every adventurer should know. 10. The dungeon near Dolkness Estate. Secrets and Strategies. After closing the last book, I stretched and decided it was time. I'm going to the dungeon. The nearest dungeon, conveniently located a short distance from the Dolkness Estate, is perfect for me. It's a low-level dungeon filled with dark magic monsters, making it an ideal training ground. I equipped my XP bracelet, hung the monster vessel on my belt, and double-checked the protection necklace around my neck. All set, I said to myself, a confident grin spreading across my face. With that, I left the mansion, ready to take my first step toward survival. I made my way toward the dungeon, strolling through the lush green forest. My thoughts wandered as I walked. What can I even do with this tiny body of mine? Can I fight properly? Will my dark magic actually work? These thoughts gnawed at me, but then I realized no one was around to see me. That meant, all right, time for some fantasy practice. I raised my fists and began punching the air. Ha! Ha! Take that! I swung at an imaginary opponent. It felt ridiculous but fun. I really am in a fantasy world now. My mood was lifted as I continued my antics, but then, out of nowhere, a slime bounced onto the path ahead of me. It was tiny, round, and wobbled adorably with every jump. My first thought was, it's so cute. But I quickly reminded myself this was the perfect chance to test my dark magic. Alright, little guy, sorry about this. I raised my hand, channeling dark energy. A swirling mass of shadows gathered at my fingertips as I aimed at the slime. Dark shot. The spell zipped toward the slime, hitting it directly. The poor creature squealed and popped into a puff of smoke, leaving behind a small mana crystal. Huh. Well, that's a decent start. I picked up the mana crystal and continued my journey. At the dungeon. After 20 minutes of walking through dense greenery, I finally arrived at the dungeon. It was just as I remembered from the game. A massive stone gate covered in moss, radiating an ominous aura. Alright, Yumilia, let's do this. With a deep breath, I pushed open the heavy gate. It creaked loudly as I stepped inside. The air grew colder, and the light dimmed, replaced by the eerie glow of magical torches lining the walls. As soon as I entered, I activated the monster vessel, hanging it from my belt. Its magic pulsed faintly, attracting nearby monsters. Sure enough, within seconds, the sound of growls and shuffling echoed through the dungeon. The first wave had arrived. A group of goblins armed with crude clubs. Time to shine, I said, drawing my tiny sword. The first goblin charged at me, but I quickly sidestepped and slashed at its side with my sword. It stumbled, and I finished it with a small burst of dark magic to the face. 3 more goblins followed, surrounding me. Dark chain, I shouted, sending tendrils of shadow to bind 2 of them. With a quick swing of my sword, I struck the 3rd goblin down. The bound goblins flailed helplessly, giving me an opening to eliminate them with precise strikes. But there was no time to celebrate. A pack of shadow wolves emerged next, their glowing red eyes fixed on me. They leapt at me in unison. Dark shield. I cast the spell just in time, forming a barrier of shadows that deflected their attacks. The wolves staggered back, giving me the opportunity to strike. I unleashed Dark Wave, a sweeping arc of shadow energy, which took out 2 wolves. The remaining wolf lunged, but I ducked and countered with a quick thrust of my sword. Panting slightly, I wiped the sweat from my brow. By the time the battle ended, I had fought 20 monsters in total, a mix of goblins, wolves, and bats. My dark magic had proven effective, and my tiny sword worked well for close combat. After the fight, I took a moment to gather all the loot. Mana crystals, monster hides, claws, and teeth, everything that could be sold or used later. My XP bracelet glowed faintly, signaling a small boost in my level. This is actually pretty fun, I said to myself, grinning as I stuffed the loot into my bag. At the market. Back in the bustling marketplace, I approached a merchant's stall. The old man behind the counter gave me a skeptical look but didn't ask too many questions. What do you have, little lady? He asked. I dumped the loot onto the counter with a flourish. Mana crystals, wolf hides, goblin teeth, and some claws. How much can I get for all this? He examined the items carefully. Not bad for your first haul. I'll give you 17 silver coins for the lot. Deal, I said quickly. He handed me the coins, and I pocketed them with a satisfied smile. 17 silver coins on my first dungeon run. It wasn't much, but it was a start. If I keep this up for 7 or 9 years, I could probably buy 10 mansions for myself. I said, twirling around in a chubby-cheeked mood. Yay! With dreams of a mansion-filled future, I headed back home, ready to plan my next dungeon adventure. 5 years later, I'm now 15 years old and much stronger than I was before. My daily life consists of training, dungeon crawling, and earning enough money to secure my future. Right now, I'm deep inside a high-level dungeon, facing not one but two formidable foes, a Dark Knight and a Black Dead Dragon. The Dark Knight stood tall, clad in black armor that radiated an ominous aura, gripping a massive sword. The Black Dead Dragon loomed behind it, skeletal yet menacing, its body pulsing with dark energy. Most adventurers would have turned tail and run. But not me. The Dark Knight charged first, its sword cleaving through the air with deadly precision. I parried effortlessly with my own blade, a custom-made sword I'd earned through years of dungeon crawling. Too slow, I muttered, sidestepping its next attack. With a quick spin, I slashed across its chest, the impact reverberating through the dungeon. The Dark Knight staggered back, but I didn't give it a chance to recover. I followed up with a flurry of strikes, my blade moving faster than it could block. With one final, decisive blow, I plunged my sword through its armor, shattering its core. The knight crumbled into dust, leaving behind two glowing necklaces. Ha! One down. The dragon roared, shaking the very ground beneath me. It wasn't going to wait for me to finish admiring my handiwork. Black flames spewed from its mouth, engulfing the area. Dark shield, I yelled, conjuring a barrier of shadow magic to deflect the flames. The dragon's glowing eyes narrowed as it prepared to attack again, but I was already casting my next spell. Dark bind. Shadowy tendrils shot out from the ground, wrapping around the dragon's skeletal frame, pinning it in place. I raised my hand, gathering all the dark energy I could muster. A massive sphere of pure darkness formed above my palm, crackling with power. Dark obliteration. The sphere launched toward the dragon, slamming into its chest and exploding on impact. The sheer force obliterated the undead creature, leaving behind nothing but a massive glowing core. Phew. That was fun. I bent down to pick up the loot. A giant dragon core from the Black Dead Dragon and 2 enchanted necklaces from the Dark Knight. After gathering the loot, I made my way back to the marketplace. The bustling streets were alive with merchants and adventurers, the familiar hum of chatter and clinking coins filling the air. I approached one of my usual buyers, an older man named Gerald who ran a shop specializing in rare materials. He was one of the few people I trusted in this town. Ah, Yumilia. Back again. He greeted me with a warm smile. What do you have for me this time? I placed the giant dragon core on the counter. It glowed faintly, radiating immense energy. Gerald's eyes widened, and for a moment, he looked utterly speechless. This is from a Black Dead Dragon, isn't it? He asked, his voice trembling slightly. I nodded casually. Yeah, can I get 20 gold coins for it? 20. He cut himself off, visibly holding back a laugh. Clearing his throat, he said, Yumilia, do you have any idea how valuable this is? I tilted my head, confused. It's just a dragon core, right? Gerald shook his head, still staring at the core. This isn't just any dragon core. It's from a high-level undead dragon. Materials like this are priceless to alchemists and enchanters. I can't just give you gold coins for it. No, I'll offer you 3 platinum plates. My jaw dropped. Wait, what? 3 platinum plates? Isn't that like 3,000 gold coins? Gerald chuckled. Exactly. That's how valuable this core is. You've done incredibly well, Yumilia. Here. He handed over 3 gleaming platinum plates, each worth a fortune. Thanks. I guess, I said, still in shock as I pocketed the plates and left the shop. As I walked through the marketplace, I couldn't stop grinning. 3 platinum plates. If I'm doing the math right, that's 30,000 gold coins. Add that to my savings, and I'm practically swimming in money. I twirled around in excitement, earning a few odd looks from passers-by, but I didn't care. Yay! I cheered in my chubby-cheeked mood. If I keep this up, I won't just survive this world, I'll thrive. My goal of building a life far away from the Otome game's deadly plotline was finally within reach. 2 years later, I'm now 17 years old, and tomorrow, I'll be heading to the prestigious academy where the heroine and the main cast of the Otone game will be. It's the place where the plot officially begins, and I've been preparing for this moment for years. But today is the worst day of my second life. The reason? My parents, those people who have never once shown their faces to me, finally decided to contact me. Not for a heartfelt reunion, of course. No, they sent me a letter. A letter with demands. The letter sits on my desk, mocking me with its neatly written words. The letter. To our beloved daughter, Yumilia Dolkness. It has been a long time since we last communicated, and we trust you have grown into a fine young lady capable of upholding the dignity of our noble family. As members of the prestigious Dolkness lineage, we must ensure the continuation of our status and legacy. Therefore, we are writing to inform you of an important matter. A proposal has been arranged for you to marry into the royal family. This union will not only secure our family's prominence but also grant you a life of unparalleled prestige and opportunity. Should you choose to refuse this honorable match, you must then accept a marriage alliance with one of the noble families we have preselected for you. Refusal of either arrangement will not be tolerated, as it would bring great dishonor to our name. We trust you will understand the weight of this decision and comply for the sake of the Dolkness family. May you honor your lineage with dignity. With regards. Your parents. I glared at the letter, my grip tightening as my frustration boiled over. Honor my lineage. Prestige. They've ignored me my entire life, and now they expect me to be their pawn. I threw the letter onto my desk, seething. Marry into the royal family. Who even is this royal I'm supposed to marry? They didn't even include a name. And if I refuse, I have to marry some random noble. Do they really think I'll just obediently go along with this? I flopped onto my bed, staring at the ceiling. Tomorrow, I'd be starting at the academy, the very place where the game's heroine and her harem would be. Navigating the academy was already going to be challenging enough without this added stress hanging over my head. Fine, I muttered to myself. If they want me to honor my family, then I'll do it my way. No one decides my life but me. Determined to take control of my destiny, I began plotting my next move. If the royal family or some noble thought I'd be an easy target, they were in for a rude awakening. The next day, the carriage rocked slightly as it trundled along the road. I leaned against the window, watching the scenery pass by. The rolling hills and dense forests were lovely, but after 2 days of travel, they'd lost their charm. I'm already exhausted, I muttered, shifting in my seat. My maid, Eleanor, who had been silent most of the ride, looked at me with concern. Young lady, we'll be arriving shortly. Please endure it just a little longer. I sighed. I know. But being stuck in this carriage for so long has been torture. At the academy gates. Finally, we arrived. It was nearly 6 p.m., though my pocket watch showed it was 5:30. Standing before the gates of the prestigious academy, I couldn't help but feel a pang of nervousness. The gates towered high, intricate designs etched into the iron. Beyond them, I could see sprawling buildings, lush gardens, and fountains. The academy was even grander than I had imagined. Eleanor stepped out of the carriage first and extended her hand to help me. I took it, stepping down onto the cobblestone path. This is it, I whispered. As I walked through the gates, memories of the game flooded my mind. This was the very place where the heroine first met two of the main love interests. William, the aloof yet charming third male lead, and Edwin, the second prince and the game's primary love interest. That fateful night had set the entire story into motion. I pushed the thoughts aside. I wasn't here to follow the game's script. Eleanor and I made our way straight to my dormitory. It was a private room, as expected for someone of my noble standing. The room was spacious and tastefully decorated, with a large canopy bed, an ornate desk, and a window overlooking the academy grounds. The moment we stepped inside, I dropped my bag on the floor and flopped onto the bed. Young Lady Yumilia, Eleanor said, a hint of disapproval in her voice. May I suggest you change your clothes first before you rest? I groaned, burying my face in the pillows. Do I have to? It would be improper to sleep in your travel attire, she replied firmly. Fine, I grumbled, rolling off the bed. Eleanor guided me to the wardrobe. She selected a simple yet elegant nightgown made of soft silk, a pale lavender color with delicate lace trim at the neckline and cuffs. She helped me out of my travel outfit, a formal dress in dark blue with a fitted bodice and high collar, and handed me the nightgown. Thank you, Eleanor, I said as I slipped it on. The fabric felt cool against my skin, and I immediately felt more relaxed. I sat at the vanity for a moment as Eleanor brushed my hair, tying it into a loose braid for the night. There, she said, stepping back. I nodded and returned to bed. As I lay down and pulled the soft blankets over myself, I couldn't help but feel a mix of anticipation and dread. Tomorrow, I would officially begin my life at the academy, surrounded by the very characters I had tried so hard to avoid for years. Let's see how this goes, I murmured to myself, closing my eyes. My mind raced with thoughts of the days ahead, but soon exhaustion took over, and I drifted into a deep sleep. Rimuru Tempest's POV. Hi, I'm Rimuru Tempest, the king and founder of Tempest's most powerful nation in existence. I'm also the strongest demon lord, though strong doesn't even begin to describe me anymore. You see, my journey didn't start at the top. I was reincarnated as a slime after being stabbed by an unknown attacker in my previous life. That's right, a slime, one of the weakest monsters in most stories. But now, I'm a true dragon, a being far above all others. Not just any true dragon, either. I've surpassed even the creator of everything, God Veldanava himself. What is a true dragon? True dragons are beings of pure power and near absolute immortality. Unlike most creatures, we are not made of flesh and blood but of pure energy, bound by our will. There are only a few true dragons in existence. 1. Veldanava, the creator and star king dragon. He is considered the origin of all life and the universe itself. 2. Velgrind, the scorched dragon, representing fire and speed. 3. Velzard, the frost dragon, embodying ice and stillness. 4. Veldora, the storm dragon and my beloved, troublesome brother. And now me, Rimuru Tempest, the void dragon or infinite dragon, who has surpassed them all. True dragons are eternal and nearly indestructible, embodying the concepts we represent. I, however, am Unicaeum, a slime-turned-true dragon, which adds even more to my unorthodox existence. I was sitting at my desk in my grand office, drowning in paperwork as usual. Running the most powerful nation wasn't all fun and games. Hey, Seal, I called out casually, leaning back in my chair. Seal, my first wife, responded immediately. Yes, my dear master. How can I assist you? She wasn't physically present because she lived in my mind. Confused. Let me explain. Seal is my manas, born from my evolution and bond with Raphael, the skill that guided me through my early days as a slime. However, she isn't just a skill. Over time, she gained sentience, becoming a part of me and eventually transcending her existence as an ability. She declared herself as my wife, my first wife, Nola, and after everything we've been through, I couldn't deny she deserved the title. Seal is not only my partner but also my closest confidant, strategist, and protector. Her abilities are beyond comprehension. She controls everything. Managing information, calculations, and creating subskills at will. She can rewrite reality itself if necessary. As I looked at the growing stack of papers on my desk, I sighed. Seal, why don't we just burn all of this? I joked. She chuckled. Tempting. But remember, Master, your people rely on you to keep things running smoothly. Yeah, I muttered, picking up my pen again. As powerful as I was, even I couldn't escape the drudgery of paperwork. The pile of papers on my desk seemed never-ending, but after about 50 minutes of focused work, I finally signed the last document with a flourish. Phew, that's done, I said, leaning back in my chair. Good work, Master. Ciel's familiar voice resonated in my mind, her tone filled with warmth and pride. Thanks, Ciel, I replied with a smile. Hey, can I ask you something? Anything, Master. I glanced at the towering stacks of paperwork that had been my routine for over a century. Don't you think it's time we took a break? I mean, I've been doing this for over 100 years now. Even I need some rest. Ciel's response was quick. But Master, who will handle the paperwork while you're away? I tapped my chin thoughtfully. How about creating a clone of me to take over? We could leave him to handle all of this while we escape to another world for, let's say, 200 years. I can do that, Master, Ciel said, her tone brimming with amusement. But what kind of world shall we go to? I trust you, I said with a confident smirk. You choose. As you wish, master. Before I could blink, a perfect clone of myself materialized before my eyes. It was like looking in a mirror, same hair, same face, same aura of undeniable charm. The only difference was this version of me had an unnatural enthusiasm for paperwork. Impressive, I muttered. The clone gave me a polite nod, immediately picking up a pen and diving into the stack of documents without hesitation. Watching him work so eagerly was almost unnerving. Well, that's one problem solved, I said, turning my attention back to Seal. Master, I have chosen the perfect world for you, Seal announced. Good job, my love, I teased, trying to catch her off guard. Her response was immediate and unexpected. Flattery will not save you, master. Before I could say another word, I felt a strange tingling sensation ripple through my body. What the? I yelped as my hair began to glow. It changed colors rapidly: blue, gold, pink, and finally settled into a striking silvery black. I ran a hand through my now silky, flowing locks, only to realize they were longer than ever, cascading like liquid light. Seal, I groaned, looking at my reflection in the window. What did you do to my hair? It suits you better, master, she replied, her tone as serene as ever, though I could sense her amusement. I sighed in defeat. Fine. You win. But don't think this means I've given up. It was never a competition, master. Now, shall we proceed? All right, fine. What kind of world did you choose? I asked, crossing my arms. It's a secret, master. Spoiling it would ruin the fun. Seal, I began, but she cut me off. Also, I've made a few more adjustments to your appearance. Fine. Do as you wish, I said, resigning myself to her whims. All preparations are now complete, master. Suddenly, my vision blurred. I felt my body grow lighter, my surroundings fading into an endless void. As I drifted into unconsciousness, Ciel's soothing voice echoed in my mind one last time. Enjoy your journey, master. This world will be different. With that, I surrendered to the void, eager to discover what awaited me in this mysterious new world. When I woke up, I found myself in an unfamiliar room. It was clearly well furnished, with intricate carvings on the wooden furniture and a faintly glowing chandelier, giving the room a warm, magical ambiance. While it wasn't as extravagant as my quarters back in Tempest, it was more than adequate. Welcome to the new world, master, Ciel's voice greeted me, her tone filled with a hint of amusement. All right, Ciel, where am I, and what kind of world did you bring me to this time? This world is quite similar to our own, though there are notable differences. For instance, the people here use magic powered by what they call mana, which is analogous to magicalools. I raised an eyebrow. So, another fantasy world, huh? Absolutely, master. Good, I said, stretching. Now, about my appearance. What exactly did you change? I asked, making my way to a mirror on the far wall. Not much, master. I only changed your hair to black, adjusted your height, and reduced your apparent age. Curious, I glanced into the mirror. My reflection revealed an androgynous teenage male with impossibly smooth skin, long silky black hair that flowed like a river of ink, and striking golden eyes that seemed to glow faintly in the dim light. What's my age, anyway? I asked, still admiring the changes. You are currently 17 years old, master, Ciel replied smoothly, then added in a teasing, seductive tone, would you like me to personally check you up, master? My face heated up instantly. WWE can save that for later. I stammered. Quickly changing the subject, I asked, what's my background in this world? Ciel's voice became more composed. I customized this world slightly to suit you, master. I sighed. What did you do this time? In this world, the Tempest family is one of the most powerful noble clans, renowned as the Dragon Clan. However, due to their loyalty to the kingdom, the entire family perished protecting it during a great war. You are the last surviving member of the Tempest line, and as such, you are revered as the Dragon Prince. And also you will go to prestigious academy tomorrow. Ciel, you overdid it again, I said, pinching the bridge of my nose. If it's for you, master, I'm happy to do so, she replied with unwavering devotion. All right, Fine, I relented. What's my status here? Would you like me to display it, master? Go ahead, I said, bracing myself. Status display. Name. Rimuru Tempest. Age. 17. Gender. Male. Race. High human. Immortal. Title. Dragon Prince. EP value. 70 million. Level. You well knew in the future. Manas. Seal. Ultimate skills. Void God Azathoth. Harvest God Shub Nigarath. Dragon King. Nova. World Destroyer. Ivaraj. Unique skills. All. Extra skills. All. Nullifications. Absolute. Resistances. Absolute. Appearance. Extremely long. Silky black hair. Golden eyes. Androgynous teenage male appearance. Slim body with soft, smooth skin. End of status. Master. I let out a low whistle. Wow, Seal. You really went all out on this one. I'll take that as a compliment, master. She sounded proud of herself. And what's this about a prestigious academy? Why am I going there? Because it will be entertaining, Seal replied cheerfully. Well, when you put it that way, how can I say no to my wife? I said with a small smile. Absolutely, she agreed, satisfaction evident in her voice. All right, I guess I'll sleep for now. Tomorrow is going to be interesting. That's wise, master. Good night. Good night to you too, Seal. And with that, I let sleep take me, wondering what this new world had in store. The next day, I stood in front of the massive gates of the prestigious academy. The structure was AWE inspiring, but for some reason, I couldn't shake the uneasy feeling settling in my gut. Why does this feel like I've walked into an Otone game? I muttered. The thought alone made my brows twitch in irritation. I don't like this feeling. Standing beside me was my mate, a stunning young woman. Her long, flowing hair shimmered like silver under the sunlight, and her piercing blue eyes had a calm yet mysterious allure. She carried herself with the elegance of nobility, despite being my servant. Her name was Serafina Nova, a name befitting her beauty and grace. According to her, her family had served the Tempest clan for generations. Seal, why did you create a family like hers? I asked mentally, curious about this addition to my life. Because I wanted to, she replied, her voice firm. All right, don't be mad. I was just asking, I said, sensing the slight edge in her tone. I am not mad, master, Seal replied, though her voice betrayed a hint of frustration. You sound like it, though, I teased lightly. I said I am not mad, master. Fine, I said, letting the subject drop. With Serafina leading the way, we entered the academy grounds. The sprawling campus was impressive, with its towering spires, pristine gardens, and bustling students. But instead of exploring, we headed straight to my assigned dormitory room. The room was spacious and well furnished, befitting my status as a noble. After briefly examining it, I let out a tired sigh and prepared to head straight to bed. But as I was about to lie down, Serafina called out to me. Master, allow me to assist you in changing your clothes, she said in a soft, melodious voice. I sighed again, knowing there was no use arguing. Fine. Serafina approached me, her movements graceful and deliberate. Her hands, gentle yet firm, began to unbutton my outer coat. As she worked, her fingers lightly brushed against my skin, sending an unfamiliar warmth coursing through me. Serafina, I asked, my voice faltering slightly. Yes, master, she replied, her voice calm, yet there was a subtle playfulness in her tone. Aren't you being a bit too touchy? I said, my face heating up slightly. She leaned in slightly, her face close to mine. Forgive me if I've made you uncomfortable, master. It is my duty to ensure your comfort. Quote. Right, I mumbled, feeling awkward under her intense gaze. Her actions were almost seductive, and I couldn't help but wonder if this was normal for her or something unique to her family's traditions. Seal, is this okay? I asked mentally, hoping for clarification. It is perfectly fine, master, Seal replied, her tone calm. Then, with a sly undertone, she added, as long as she understands that I am your first wife, there's no problem. First wife? Huh, I muttered under my breath. Did you say something, master? Serafina asked, tilting her head. No, nothing, I said quickly, waving off her question. Once I was finally dressed in my nightclothes, I climbed into bed. As I pulled the covers over myself, I mentally addressed Seal again. You really have a habit of overcomplicating my life, you know that. But isn't it entertaining, Master? Seal replied, her voice filled with amusement. I sighed, deciding not to argue further. Good night, Seal. Good night, Master. Sweet dreams. With that, I closed my eyes and allowed sleep to take me, ready to face whatever challenges or surprises awaited me at this academy. Rimuru's POV. I was in my room, preparing for what Seal had described as a welcoming ceremony at the academy. Something about it didn't sit right with me. Knowing my luck, today wasn't going to be normal at all. Master, today you'll be introducing yourself to the other students. Let's try not to embarrass yourself in front of everyone, alright? Ciel's teasing voice echoed in my head. Yeah, I get it, I replied, rolling my eyes. I'm not going to embarrass myself, on purpose. I'll believe that when I see it. Just as I was about to shoot back, Serafina entered the room with a perfectly folded set of clothes in her hands. She moved with the grace of someone who knew exactly how to command attention, her presence impossible to ignore. Master, she said, her voice smooth and velvety. Here are your clothes. And, she trailed off, holding up a sleek black hat. I suggest you use this to cover your hair. I raised an eyebrow. Why the hell do I have to hide my hair? What's wrong with it? She didn't answer right away. Instead, she stepped closer, her sapphire eyes locking onto mine, her soft breath tickling my face. Her tone dropped to a whisper, low and seductive. You'll understand soon enough, Master, she murmured, her lips almost brushing against my cheek. My face turned red, and I froze for a moment. I cleared my throat, trying to regain my composure. All right, fine. Serafina took a step back, the faintest smirk tugging at her lips. Damn, she was good at this. Oh, and Master, she continued, her tone now light and casual as if she hadn't just tried to short-circuit my brain. You should also know that in this academy, the majority of girls aim to find someone for themselves. Someone for themselves. I repeated dumbly. She means a husband. Seal chimed in helpfully, her tone laced with amusement. Right, I said slowly, narrowing my eyes. So all I have to do is avoid getting roped into this whole husband nonsense, right? Serafina sighed, shaking her head as if I were some clueless child. Never mind, Master. Just focus on surviving your time in the academy. Surviving, I echoed, but she had already turned away, effectively ending the conversation. I shrugged and turned toward the door. Just as my hand reached the handle, I felt a sudden warmth on my cheek. It took me a second to process that Serafina had leaned in and kissed me, her lips lingering just long enough to leave me stunned. That was for good luck, she said with a perfectly straight face. Her calm demeanor only made it worse. My face felt like it was on fire. Alright. Thanks. In my head, Seal burst out laughing. Master, your reaction was priceless. You're as red as a tomato. Shut up, Seal, I muttered, trying to will away the heat in my cheeks. I left the room, the hat perched awkwardly on my head. I still didn't understand why I needed to hide my hair, but asking Seal would only ruin the mystery. And let's be honest, he wasn't ready for more teasing just yet. As I walked through the academy halls, I felt something faint but familiar in the air. It was subtle, like ripples of energy brushing against my senses. Hey, Seal, I asked, my curiosity getting the better of me. Do I have elemental affinities in this world? Of course, Master. And, would you like me to list them? Obviously. Very well. Master has an affinity for all major elements in this world. Water element, fire element, earth element, wind element, light element, dark element. Additionally, as a member of the Tempest and Nova families, Master has unique affinities for void element, holy element, demonic element. You can use all of these elements freely, Master. I sighed. Seal, are you trying to make me stand out even more? Isn't that what you're best at? She teased, her voice brimming with amusement. Besides, as my husband, you deserve only the best. Yeah, sure, I said, shaking my head. At this rate, I'm going to end up with a harem or something. You say that as if it's a bad thing. I chose to ignore that and focused on my surroundings instead. The energy in the air was growing stronger the closer I got to the grand hall. You really overdid it this time, Seal, I muttered under my breath. I take that as a compliment. Now, don't embarrass yourself during the ceremony, alright? Sure, I said with a sigh. Let's see what kind of mess this academy has waiting for me. With that, I enter Grand Hall, bracing myself for whatever chaos lay ahead. Yumilia's POV. I was in my room with my ever-dedicated maid, Lysandra. She was helping me into my new academy uniform, a complicated mess of straps, buttons, and layers. Seriously, who designed this? It's almost like they didn't expect anyone to wear it without help. Lysandra, I said with a sigh, why is this uniform so ridiculous? She smiled softly as she adjusted the ribbons on my sleeves. Because, my lady, the academy is full of traditions. The uniform reflects that. I rolled my eyes. More like it reflects their love for torturing students before they even set foot in class. Lysandra chuckled. Perhaps, young lady. But you'll manage. Today was the day of the welcome ceremony for the prestigious academy. If my knowledge of the game this world is based on was right, this was the event where the so-called Villainess meets the heroine for the first time. In the bad ending, well, Yumilia meets early on. I took a deep breath. That wasn't going to happen. I had too much control over my life and my dark magic for anything like that to unfold. Still, no matter how confident I felt, there was a nervous flutter in my chest at the thought of all the events waiting for me, including today's. It's finished, my lady, Lysandra said, stepping back to admire her handiwork. Please, look in the mirror. I nodded and walked over to the mirror, staring at my reflection. To my surprise, the uniform didn't look half bad. It had a regal, fantasy-like elegance to it that suited the academy's aesthetic. You look beautiful, Lady Yumilia, Lysandra said with pride. Thank you, I replied with a small smile. But, she added with a note of warning, if you linger here too long, you'll be late for the ceremony. I sighed. Right. Heading toward the door, I turned back to Lysandra. Don't worry about me. I'll be fine. Her expression didn't change, her lips pressing into a thin line. That makes me worry even more, my lady. Don't be like that, Lysandra. I'll see you later, I said, waving her off before stepping into the corridor. As I walked toward the main hall where the ceremony would take place, I silently reminded myself of my plan. Remember, Yumilia, avoid the bad events. Stay away from the heroine, and for the love of everything, steer clear of the male love interests. Just live a normal school life. The halls of the academy were grand, every corner exuding wealth and prestige. But as I turned a corner, something caught my eye, a woman who looked every bit like she had stepped out of a painting. Her rich blue hair cascaded down her back, and her golden eyes shimmered with intelligence and authority. Her figure was, for lack of a better word, perfect, elegant yet impossibly alluring. She was dressed in a pristine maid uniform, but her presence screamed more than just a mere servant. When she saw me, her gaze softened, and she called out, "Young lady, if I may." Curious, I nodded and approached her. "What is your name?" she asked, her voice calm yet commanding. "I am Yumilia Dolkness," I replied. Her lack of fear or disdain toward me was surprising. Most people either avoided me or whispered behind my back. I see, she said with a polite bow. I am Serafina, maid to the Tempest family. It's a pleasure to meet you. But, if I may ask, why do you not cover your hair? You may give others the wrong impression. I blinked at her, confused by the suggestion. Don't worry, I'm perfectly fine as I am. Serafina sighed softly, as though she didn't quite believe me. Well, it is your choice, after all. Please, go on your way. I apologize for stopping you. She gave a small bow of respect. It's all right, I said with a nod, continuing toward the hall. As I walked, I found myself thinking about Serafina. She seemed different from any maid I had ever met. There was an air of mystery about her, and I couldn't help but wonder what kind of person her master or mistress might be. If I have the chance, I'd like to meet them someday, I thought as I stepped into the grand hall where the welcome ceremony was about to begin. The moment I entered the grand hall, I immediately spotted three familiar figures standing near the center of the room. Edwin, William, and Oswald, the three most prominent love interests in the game. Edwin, with his silver hair and piercing blue eyes, exuded the calm confidence of a perfect prince. William, the fiery red-haired knight, had an energy about him that was impossible to ignore. And finally, Oswald, the dark and brooding mage, leaned against the wall, looking like he couldn't care less about being here. They were exactly as I remembered from the game, charming and magnetic, each in their own way. But I had no intention of getting involved with any of them. So, I did what any sane person would do. I ignored them completely and headed for my assigned seat. As I weaved through the crowd, someone bumped into me from behind. Startled, I turned around to apologize. "Oh, I'm sorry," I started, but then I saw who it was: the heroine. She was a petite girl with soft brown hair and innocent doe-like eyes, looking up at me with a mix of panic and guilt. "I'm so sorry. I'm sorry, sorry," she stammered, bowing repeatedly as though the world might end if she didn't apologize enough. I sighed, a little exasperated. "All right, that's enough already." She froze mid-bow and hesitated. Is it really all right?" "Yes, it's fine. Just be careful next time," I said, waving it off as I walked away. But as I glanced back at her, I noticed her trembling slightly when I said it was all right. Well, of course, I thought. She's the heroine, after all. Overreacting is basically part of her personality. Ignoring the odd encounter, I finally reached my seat, only to realize it was in the very front row. "Why?" I muttered under my breath, sighing as I sat down. "Why do I have to sit in the front?" 4 minutes later, an elderly man in ornate robes entered the hall, followed by a striking young woman carrying a glowing crystal. She placed it carefully on a table on the stage before stepping back. The old man, clearly the principal, stepped forward and began his speech. "Good morning to you all. Welcome to prestigious academy. I hope everyone is excited to spend the next few years forging new friendships, mastering spells, honing your swordsmanship, and discovering the depths of your abilities." He paused, looking out over the crowd, his gaze seeming to linger on certain individuals including me. "I won't make this speech too long," he continued with a chuckle. "But I do want to say this. You all belong here. This academy is a place of growth, challenge, and opportunity. Seize it with both hands. And finally," he smiled warmly, "welcome to prestigious academy." The hall erupted into applause, with students cheering and clapping enthusiastically. I clapped politely, but inwardly, I sighed. This is just the beginning. I need to stay under the radar and avoid anything that could lead to the bad ending. As the applause died down, the young woman who had accompanied the principal stepped forward. "Next," she said with a confident yet gentle voice, "we'll be asking our esteemed students to introduce themselves. When your name is called, please step forward and share a little about yourself." Quote. My stomach dropped. Oh no. Of course this was going to happen. The principal continued, his voice calm and reassuring. "When you introduce yourself, we'll also check your level. And don't feel embarrassed if your level is low, being level 1 is perfectly normal. After all, this is just the beginning of your journey." I sighed, resting my chin on my hand. What could my level even be? Level 5, maybe. Or, if I'm lucky, level 10. But then, a memory struck me 2 years ago. I had taken down a dark knight and a dead dragon. Both were known as ridiculously strong monsters. I scoffed at myself. Oh, come on, Yumilia, don't be ridiculous. A level 10 couldn't possibly defeat 2 monsters like that without breaking a sweat. The thought of it was so absurd I almost laughed, but I quickly snapped back to reality when the young woman beside the principal stepped forward, holding the crystal ball that was apparently meant to measure levels. "I'll be calling your names in order," she announced, her voice clear and firm. "When you hear your name, please come up to the stage, introduce yourself, and place your hand on the crystal for your level evaluation." The hall fell silent. The first name called was Edwin Valshine. Of course, I thought with mild annoyance. He's the first one called. How predictable. Edwin strode to the stage, his every step calculated and confident. When he reached the podium, he introduced himself, his princely charm in full effect. "I am Edwin Valshine, second prince of the Valshine kingdom. I hope to uphold my family's honor here and learn alongside all of you." The audience was captivated. Then the young woman gestured to the crystal. "Please place your hand here." Edwin complied, and the crystal glowed softly. She examined the reading and announced, Level 5. Congratulations. The room erupted in cheers, but I didn't bother clapping. What's there to cheer about? Level 5 is average. Next was Oswald Grimsard. Oh great, the great mage is next, I thought sarcastically. What are the odds the game's second love interest gets called right after the first? Oswald, ever the mysterious one, walked up to the stage with an air of aloofness. Oswald Grimsard, heir to the Grimsard family. My goal is to master magic and surpass my predecessors. He placed his hand on the crystal. This time, it glowed brighter than it had for Edwin. Level 6. Congratulations. The young woman said. Again, the room cheered, though it was noticeably louder than before. Oswald smirked smugly as he returned to his seat. I rolled my eyes. Why does he act like he's the pinnacle of perfection? Then the dreaded name was called. William Arias. Yup. I muttered under my breath, I'm definitely going to bed early tonight. William, the fiery knight, marched to the stage with an infectious energy. I'm William Arias, captain of the Royal Knights Youth Division. I aim to train harder and become the strongest knight in the kingdom. He placed his hand on the crystal, and the glow was nearly blinding. Level 15. Congratulations. The hall erupted into the loudest cheer yet. William's grin grew wider as he flexed his arm, basking in the attention. Oh, please. A level 15. He's not that impressive. Then came the name everyone had been waiting for. Alicia E. Hinlate. The heroine shyly approached the stage, her posture radiating nervousness. She introduced herself softly, almost stumbling over her words. My name is Alicia E. Hinlate. I'm just a commoner, but I hope to study hard and make friends with everyone here. There was a noticeable ripple of discontent among some students. After all, a commoner being here was almost unheard of. Still, Alicia pressed forward, placing her hand on the crystal. Level 3. Congratulations, the woman said. Before the crowd could react, the principal stepped forward. This young lady, Alicia, also possesses the rare light element, making her the only one in the kingdom with such an affinity. That caught everyone's attention. Whispers of intrigue filled the room, and the applause, though hesitant, eventually came. I, of course, didn't join in. Light element or not, she's still the heroine. And I'm still not interested. Then it happened. Yumilia Dolkness. The hall fell completely silent. I felt the weight of hundreds of eyes on me as I sighed and stood up. The whispers began immediately. Isn't she the one with black hair? She's supposed to be the demon lord's descendant, right? What is she doing here? I ignored them all and walked to the stage with practiced grace, forcing myself to stay calm. Once there, I turned to the crowd and introduced myself, sticking to what was in the game. I am Yumilia Dolkness. My family has long served the kingdom, and I hope to use my time here to better myself. The room was dead quiet. The young woman gestured to the crystal. Please place your hand here, Lady Yumilia. Here goes nothing, I thought, placing my hand on the smooth surface of the crystal. At first, nothing happened. Then, a blinding golden light erupted from it, filling the entire hall. The young woman froze, staring at the crystal in shock. She quickly turned to the principal, who hurried over to see for himself. His eyes widened, and he muttered something under his breath before looking at me. Excuse me, I asked, my voice calm despite my growing unease, but, what is my level? The young woman finally spoke, her voice trembling. Your level is level 99. See, congratulations. The room exploded. What? She's a monster. Level 99. That's impossible. Completely fake. I closed my eyes, exhaling slowly. Well, there goes my normal life. Nice knowing you. The uproar in the hall grew louder with each passing second. Several students stood up, their faces red with anger or disbelief. This is rigged. One shouted. There's no way someone can be level 99. She's cheating. Yelled another. She must have tampered with the crystal somehow. A third joined in, pointing a finger at me. She's got black hair. She's a demon or something. That has to explain it. I rolled my eyes but stayed silent, watching as the chaos unfolded. The principal raised his hand, his voice booming over the noise. Silence. The room immediately quieted, though murmurs of dissent still lingered. If you doubt the results, we shall verify them using a new crystal ball. The young woman nodded and hurried off the stage, returning moments later with not one but two new crystal balls. She placed them carefully on the table. To ensure there is no error, the principal announced, "We will use these fresh, untampered crystal balls. Lady Yumilia, please step forward." I sighed inwardly but complied, stepping toward the first crystal. The young woman gestured for me to place my hand on it. "Whenever you're ready," she said, her voice quieter than before but laced with curiosity. I placed my hand on the crystal ball, and just like before, it glowed brightly, illuminating the entire hall. The young woman checked the reading, her eyes widening. "Level 99, she announced, her voice trembling again. The crowd erupted into chaos once more. "No way. This has to be a trick. Check the other one." The principal held up a hand again, silencing the room. "Let us try the second crystal." I moved to the second crystal ball, placing my hand on it. This time, the glow was even more radiant, filling the hall with a golden hue. The young woman stared at the reading in disbelief, then turned to the principal. It's still level 99, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. The hall fell into stunned silence, save for a few muttered curses. The principal looked at me, his expression a mix of awe and curiosity. "Lady Yumilia, do you believe this is truly your level?" I turned to him, my face calm but firm. "Absolutely," I said without hesitation. "This is my real level. I can't lie about it, can I? It's not like I have control over how the crystal works." The murmurs started again, though quieter this time. "But how?" one student whispered. "She must have done something," another hissed. Rimuru's pav. The moment I stepped into the grand hall of prestigious academy, I immediately felt the stifling air of formality. Hundreds of students filled the massive room, all sitting with eager anticipation or dread. I sat somewhere inconspicuous, near the middle rows, observing the scene unfold. "Well," I muttered to myself, "this looks familiar." The principal, an elderly man wearing flowing robes, entered the stage with a young woman carrying a glowing crystal ball. The crystal seemed to hum faintly with magical energy, something I easily noticed thanks to my sharpened senses. The principal cleared his throat, beginning his speech. "Good morning to you all. Welcome to prestigious academy. I hope everyone is excited to spend the next few years forging new friendships, mastering spells, honing your swordsmanship, and discovering the depths of your abilities." The speech was what I'd expect, encouraging words, sprinkled with a dose of formal expectation. My gaze roamed over the crowd as he spoke, catching snippets of whispered conversations. A few faces stood out, mainly those dripping with arrogance or importance. "Great, more of those kinds of students." The principal wrapped up his speech, earning enthusiastic cheers from the audience. I clapped along, more out of politeness than excitement. Then the young woman stepped forward, introducing the process for level measurement. "We'll be asking our esteemed students to introduce themselves. When your name is called, please step forward and share a little about yourself. Afterward, place your hand on this crystal for your level evaluation." Ah, so this was that kind of ceremony. I smirked to myself, knowing exactly how nerve-wracking this could be for some students. I leaned back in my chair, deciding to enjoy the show. The first name called was Edwin Valshine. A blonde, princely-looking boy stood up, exuding charisma as he walked to the stage. He introduced himself confidently, boasting his royal lineage. "I am Edwin Valshine, second prince of the Valshine kingdom. I hope to uphold my family's honor here and learn alongside all of you." He placed his hand on the crystal, which glowed faintly. "Level 5. Congratulations," announced the young woman. The hall filled with cheers, but I didn't miss the forced smiles on some of the more competitive faces. The next name was Oswald Grimsard. He introduced himself with a cool demeanor. "Oswald Grimsard, heir to the Grimsard family. My goal is to master magic and surpass my predecessors." When he placed his hand on the crystal, the glow was slightly brighter than Edwin's. "Level 6. Congratulations." I chuckled softly. "Ah, the classic competitive rivalry," I muttered. Then came William Arias. The fiery knight marched to the stage, introducing himself with overflowing confidence. "I'm William Arias, captain of the Royal Knights Youth Division. I aim to train harder and become the strongest knight in the kingdom." The crystal's glow was almost blinding. "Level 15. Congratulations." The hall erupted in cheers, and I raised an eyebrow. "Level 15, Huh, impressive for his age. But the noise died when the next name was called. Alicia Inlove. A timid girl with blonde hair shyly walked to the stage. She introduced herself softly, almost stumbling over her words. My name is Alicia Inlove. I'm just a commoner, but I hope to study hard and make friends with everyone here. The atmosphere changed as whispers rippled through the room. A commoner. What is she even doing here? When she placed her hand on the crystal, it glowed faintly. Level 3. Congratulations. The whispers grew louder until the principal stepped forward. This young lady, Alicia, possesses the rare light element, making her the only one in the kingdom with such an affinity. The announcement silenced the murmurs, and hesitant applause followed. And then, the atmosphere shifted dramatically. Yumilia Dolkness. The room fell into an almost eerie silence. I perked up at the name, noting the sudden tension. A girl with flowing black hair stood, walking to the stage with a calm, almost calculated grace. Whispers began spreading. She's the one with black hair, right? Isn't she rumored to be a descendant of the demon lord? What is she doing here? I frowned, leaning toward the student next to me. Hey, what's this about a demon lord? The boy gave me a wary glance. You didn't know. Yumilia Dolkness is said to be descended from an ancient demon lord. People say she's dangerous, cursed even. That black hair of hers is proof. I leaned back, intrigued. So that's how it is. This world still clings to superstitions like that. Yumilia stepped onto the stage, introducing herself with poise. I am Yumilia Dolkness. My family has long served the kingdom, and I hope to use my time here to better myself. There was no applause, only a tense silence. The young woman gestured to the crystal. Please place your hand here, Lady Yumilia. Yumilia sighed and placed her hand on the crystal. At first, nothing happened. Then, a blinding golden light erupted, filling the entire hall. The young woman froze. Level 99, she stammered, her voice trembling. The hall erupted into chaos. What? That's impossible. She's cheating. She must have tampered with the crystal. The principal quickly intervened, ordering for another crystal. The young woman returned moments later with 2 fresh crystals. Yumilia calmly placed her hand on both, and each time, the result was the same. Level 99, the woman confirmed again. The murmurs grew more frantic. There's no way. She's just a student. She's the demon lord. That explains it. I watched the scene unfold, rubbing my temples. Seal, give me a rundown of Yumilia's actual power. Ciel's voice echoed in my mind. Yumilia Dolkness's power level is equivalent to that of Demon Lord Luminous Valentine. I nearly choked. Her level. Are you serious? Ciel continued. Her potential for both combat and magic is extraordinary. However, it seems she's unaware of her own strength. Well, this just got interesting. The tension in the hall had reached a boiling point after Yumilia's absurd level 99 reveal. Whispers buzzed like angry bees, students glaring at her with suspicion, jealousy, and outright hostility. I could feel her discomfort even from my seat, but she handled herself well, keeping her expression cool and collected. I leaned back, smirking. Ciel, this is turning into quite the show. What do you think? Master, I believe you are enjoying this far too much. I can't help it. You know, you told me not to embarrass myself, but. I paused, glancing at the growing tension in the crowd. What if I did make myself the demon lord? Ciel's voice carried an amused tone. Master, are you trying to show off? Not quite. I just want to have some fun. Imagine their reactions. Ciel paused briefly before replying, her tone now mirroring my own mischief. That would indeed be entertaining. Shall we begin the drama, then? I grinned, straightening my posture. Ready when you are, Ciel. Just as the crowd was beginning to settle, the mood took a dark turn. A male student abruptly stood up, pointing angrily at Yumilia. Go to hell, he snarled, his voice dripping with malice. Before anyone could react, he hurled a dagger at her with alarming speed. Without thinking, I teleported directly in front of Yumilia, catching the dagger between 2 fingers with effortless precision. The sharp clang of metal against my fingers echoed in the stunned silence. I let the dagger dangle for a moment, my long black hair flowing dramatically as I turned to face the crowd. My hair, darker than even Yumilia's, shimmered like polished obsidian under the light. It was longer, cascading down my back, with stray strands partially obscuring one of my golden, glowing eyes. Gasps filled the hall. WWHO is that? Is his hair darker than Yumilia's? Look at those eyes. He's terrifying. I flicked the dagger into the air, caught it lazily, and ignited it with white flames. It disintegrated instantly, leaving behind nothing but ash that scattered to the floor. What's the meaning of this? I said coldly, my voice calm but carrying an unmistakable edge. Does no one think before acting? The students recoiled at my words, the sheer weight of my presence pressing down on them like a storm. Turning to Yumilia, I asked, "Are you all right?" She gave me a measured nod, her voice cool. "I don't need help, but, thanks." I smiled lightly, stepping back. "Good to hear." Suddenly, a voice cut through the silence. "Who are you?" All eyes turned to William, the fiery knight, who stood from his seat, pointing at me. Another demon lord, or what? I shifted my gaze to him, golden eyes gleaming. The room seemed to grow colder despite the heat of their fear. "Not another demon lord," I said, smirking. "The demon lord. Nice to meet you all." A wave of confusion washed over the crowd. Whispers turned into frantic murmurs as students struggled to comprehend my words. Is he serious? The demon lord. Is he joking? The young woman beside the principal, who had been holding the crystal, finally spoke up. "You're a new student at this academy, correct?" I nodded, flashing her an easy smile. "Yes. Please check your list. You'll find I'm next, right after Lady Yumilia." She hesitated, flipping through her notes. Her face paled when she found my name. She immediately stepped back and bowed deeply. "My apologies, Lord Rimuru," she stammered, her voice trembling. I didn't realize. Her reaction made the room even more chaotic. Students gawked, their confusion morphing into something darker resentment. I sighed internally, glancing at Yumilia. She looked puzzled, her sharp eyes narrowing slightly as she studied me. "Seal," I muttered silently, "why is she panicking like that?" "It's because the Tempest family is known as the strongest noble family, second only to the royal family in noble power. While officially ranked as noble, your lineage commands immense respect and fear." I groaned mentally. "Seal, what in the world are you doing? How can I live a normal life like this?" Ciel's tone was practically gleeful. "Thank you, Master." That wasn't a compliment. I snapped in my mind. Taking a calming breath, I turned to the young woman. "Don't worry about it," I said gently, motioning for her to relax. She nodded nervously. "Thank you, my lord. Would you please introduce yourself to the audience?" I sighed dramatically, turning to face the crowd. Time to put on a show. "Greetings, everyone. My name is Rimuru Tempest, the sole remaining member of the Tempest noble family." I let the words hang in the air before adding, "You might know me by my other title, the Dragon Prince." Gasps echoed across the hall. I could see the flicker of recognition in some students' eyes, followed by something darker, hatred. "And," I continued, flashing a sharp smile, "if anyone here is claiming to be the Demon Lord, let me make this clear, it's me." The hall erupted into chaos. "You've got to be kidding. A Demon Lord in our academy? What's next? A dragon joining the student council?" The young woman, now visibly shaking, stepped forward again. "Lord Rimuru, may I ask? Please place your hand on one of the crystals for your level evaluation." The room fell deathly silent, every eye on me as I walked to the table. I placed my hand on the crystal. The moment I touched it, the crystal erupted in a swirl of pure black and purple energy, shadows and light intertwining in an ominous display. The oppressive aura filled the room, making it hard for anyone to breathe. When the crystal finally settled, its numbers glowed vividly. Level 100. The young woman staggered, nearly fainting. "Why, your level is level 100, she stuttered, her voice barely audible. The crowd descended into chaos once more, this time in complete disbelief. "Level 100. That's impossible. He's stronger than Yumilia. How can anyone be level 100? I tilted my head, watching the panic with mild amusement. "Seal," I muttered, "this is getting ridiculous." "Master, it's exactly as you planned." I smirked, looking out at the sea of faces. "Well, this is going to be fun at least." 3 person POV. The atmosphere in the grand hall was a volatile mix of emotions as the students reacted to the shocking events that had just unfolded. Rimuru's dramatic reveal as the supposed Demon Lord, and his level 100 status had thrown the academy into chaos. Clusters of students gathered in hushed groups, their eyes darting between Rimuru and Yumilia. They look alike, don't they? One student whispered, his tone laced with suspicion. Yeah, another agreed. The hair, the aura, it's too similar to be a coincidence. Could they be related? That's impossible, another interjected, shaking his head. Yumilia's from the Dolkness family. This Rimuru guy from the Tempest family, there's no record of those two related. Still, don't you think it's strange? Two people with black hair, insanely high levels, and this overwhelming presence. Something's not adding up. Yumilia, still on the stage, glanced sideways at Rimuru, her brows furrowed in thought. Who is he? Why does he feel so familiar? He wasn't in the game. Is he an anomaly? Further back in the hall, some students were visibly shaken. Did you see how he caught that dagger? One muttered, his voice trembling. And his level 100. No one's ever reached that. Does this mean he could destroy the academy if he wanted to? Another student chimed in, his voice barely above a whisper. What if he's here to take over? Demon lords don't just stroll into academies for fun. A girl beside him shuddered. What if he's already plotting something? I don't trust him. In stark contrast, some students were consumed by anger and jealousy. A group of burly boys, likely aspiring knights, clenched their fists as they glared at Rimuru. Who does he think he is, walking in here like he owns the place? One growled. He's just trying to show off. Another sneered. We should teach him a lesson, the leader of the group said, his voice dripping with malice. Doesn't matter if he's level 100. We'll take him down and show him where he belongs. The group nodded in agreement, their resentment festering as they continued to watch Rimuru with open hostility. Among the more notable students, Edwin Valshine, William Arias, and Oswald Grimsard were seething. Black hair. William spat, his hand gripping the hilt of his sword. It's always the black-haired ones. They're cursed. It's in their blood. Edwin nodded, his expression dark. A demon lord and his kin. That's the only explanation. Yumilia is a problem, but this Rimuru, he's a threat to everything. Oswald sneered, his voice cold. And he has the nerve to flaunt his power. Let's see how long that arrogance lasts. Their mutual disdain for Rimuru was palpable, their hatred fueled by a combination of prejudice and envy at his overwhelming power. Meanwhile, Alicia sat quietly, her mind a whirlwind of conflicting thoughts. She had been trained to sense the essence of people, and what she felt from Rimuru left her deeply unsettled. Yumilia feels dark, like she's cloaked in shadows, Alicia thought, her gaze flickering to the girl on the stage. But Rimuru, he's different. He's both dark and light. How can someone who calls himself a demon lord radiate such balance? Her eyes narrowed in thought. Who is he really? And why does he feel so paradoxical? Amid the tension, a majority of the female students were captivated by Rimuru's mysterious allure. Did you see how he caught that dagger? It was so effortless. And his hair, it's so long and silky. Not to mention those glowing golden eyes. He's absolutely stunning. One girl sighed dreamily. I don't care if he's a demon lord. He could destroy the academy, and I'd still thank him. Another nodded enthusiastically. Same. Who cares about levels or titles? He's perfect. Their infatuation was obvious, and it spread rapidly among the female students, leaving a trail of blushes and wistful sighs in its wake. On the stage, Rimuru stood tall, a faint smirk tugging at his lips as he observed the chaos he had caused. The reactions were predictable yet amusing. Ah, humanity, Rimuru mused. Such a delightful mix of fear, hatred, and adoration. Yumilia, beside him, crossed her arms, her expression skeptical. You're enjoying this, aren't you? She muttered. Rimuru glanced at her, his smirk widening. What gave me away?